Hello guys, hope you are doing well. In this video we are going to learn about how to fetch data from API. But this video is special from other because in this video I am going to fetch data from API using getX, or you can say in a very professional way. For this video I am using a free API which is available at dummyapi.io/explorer. So this is kind of API which is free. In order to access this API, first of all you have to create account in this website. After creating account in this website, you will be able to see this screen. There are multiple endpoints where you can use for using free API. Like the selected one is user list. Basically these are all endpoints. And what is endpoint? Endpoint is basically a point from where you will get different data. User list is providing user detail. User full profile is basically providing the full profile of the user. In this case you can see there is a person, Sarah. They have full detail after clicking on this button, like gender, date of birth, registration. And clicking on the user list endpoint, it just gave you some detail like the image, name and ID of the user. We will be using this API throughout the video. First of all, you have to create account, and after creating account you will be able to see this screen. In this screen they have provided you app IDs list. So we will be using this ID as our app ID. Now let's create a Postman document in order to test the API, that is it working or not. Postman is basically a software where you can test APIs whether it is working or not. It's loading. Now let's create new, and yeah, first of all we have to get base URL. So this is basically the URL for that particular endpoint. There, if you click on this, we have to hit this particular URL to get this information from the API. We have to copy this and paste it over here, and also it requires headers. We have to provide app ID. This is the documentation of the API. It says that it required to set app ID header for each request. How we can set header? We have to click our header section, and then inside key we have to paste the one that we have copied, app ID. And what is our app ID? This is our basically app ID, and we have to paste it over here. Now let's click on send. So yeah guys, I have got users information, and I have limited information to the 10 entries. So data is basically the list which provide uh, each user record, user 1, user 2, user 3 up to 10, because I have limited to 10. You guys can remove the limit. It will give you whole data. Okay, it says path not find because I have removed R from user. Make sure you remove also the white space, the extra space from the user. These are very basic errors, so you should know about these things. So you guys can see I have got multiple objects. So yeah, now let's consume this API in our application. What we will be using, or what we will require in order to use this API, is basically two things. One is our getX package, and another is HTTP package. So now let's first install these two packages. I'm going to pubspec.yml. For getX, I'm going to use get, and for HTTP, I'm using HTTP without mentioning package version. Now it is getting these packages from the internet. It is completed. The second thing that we have to do after installing this thing is basically to create model for each API. Inside lib, we have to create folder models that will basically contain a model for different use cases. Like in this case, I'm using user list API, so I will be getting this information. So if you think for the each information item, it have image, it have name, and it have ID. So I have to create a model for it. Now I'm going to name it. I'm going to create a file for this user underscore model, or you can yeah, user underscore model underscore list. This is the file where I will keep my model. Now let me show you automated way how you guys can create model from the API. Like you guys can see, this is the information that I have got from the API. Now I have to copy the first element or the whole response, and we have to search for the JSON to dot website. This is JSON to dot is very amazing tool for Flutter developers. If you have to create model from your response without wasting time in order to make it from scratch. So this is basically the JSON part. We have to paste our JSON over here. JSON is basically response from the API, and we have to give it a name to the model. User model list, and generate it have generated a very amazing with null safety used code for us. Then we have to just copy and paste over here. So yeah guys, we have created our model for the user information. For that particular information, we have created our model using json to dot file. Now let's create one another folder which will be about controller. In this controller, we have to create a file, uh, data controller. Basically the actual logic will be implemented in this class. For now we have to create a class, data controller, and make sure to extend it with getX controller. Yeah guys, I have created a getX controller class. Now we have to create a method in order to get data from API. Get data, or you guys can say it, get user information from API. This is basically the method name, and that will be asynchronous because we are using HTTP, so we are sending request to another server, so it is async and await work. We have to import HTTP library. Okay, so we have to first of all create API request http dot get. This is basically get request. If you check it in the documentation, sorry where it is, go to documentation, and yeah, it is saying uh, getting user data. it is saying that if you want to get list of users, then it is a get request. Basically a get request, we have to provide URI instead of URL. We have to type URI dot try parse, and yeah, at the end we have to put the exclamation mark because for the null safety check, and there we have to provide the URL. What is the URL? We have to go back to the API Explorer, and this is basically the URL that we have to use, right? And after this we have to put semicolon. It also required some headers. What header it require is we have to click the go to documentation, and inside header section it is saying that app id is must, as I have show you in the postman collection, and then we have to provide our API key or app id. So yeah guys, basically this is doing the work of getting data from API, but as it take time to get data from server and get back to us, so we have to await for it. This is the syntax. Wait until they have get data from the server, and once they get data from the server we have to parse it in the HTTP response and name it a response that way. And after that we have to check whether have it got data successfully or not. If response dot status code equal to 200, this means that we have got data successfully. Otherwise, other than 200 means we have some error while getting data, right? Now we have to parse a response into our models that we have created. How we can do that is very simple. We just have to call this user model list dot from JSON. It will basically create very amazing model for us, and our work will be easy to use. Now we have to convert this into JSON variable result equal to JSON decode, because the data that we have got is in the form of JSON. You guys can see it is in the form of JSON. First of all we have to decode it into the type that Dart is basically understanding. How we are going to decode is basically to provide a response dot body, and now we have our data in the form of hash map, or you guys can say map. Then we have to transform this data into our model. We have to first create a object of that model. It is named user model list. I'm going to create object over here user model list, and I'm going to name it user list, and I have initialized it with the empty construct empty list. Import it. Okay, sorry, it is a model. Now let's don't initialize and make it nullable, because in API we have two cases: either we got data from API successfully or not. If we get data from API, then it will have data, but if we got error, then it will be null. So how to transform this result into that model? Okay, so there is a very handy method for us: user model list dot from JSON. We have to use that user model list dot from JSON, and we have to provide this result over here. Now at the end what we will be expecting is the same object that I have created over here, user underscore list equal to this, and after this we have to our work is done till here. Now let's create some loading variables. When the API, when the data is loading from the server, so at that time we should have to show a loading indicator. How we will be able to do this is very simple. We have to create a variable. Name is data loading. Initially we have to make it false, right? And one another thing, uh, make sure to wrap it with the try catch. And finally, the best the best space to create to make it true is a try, because in this we are going to get data from the API and make it true. And best space to make it false is basically the final is data loading. We have to make it false over here, and in case of any error we just have to print it over here. Error while getting data is at e. So yeah guys, we have successfully created a model. This particular model, we have successfully created data controller, which is basically extending getX controller. We have created two variables. One is object of the user model, and another is the variable for loading indicator. So now let's create a basic UI for the application. Now let's set up some simple UI for the application in order to use the data that we have fetched from the API. First of all, I'm going to remove all the boilerplate code that we have received while creating the Flutter project till here. Now let's name it stf home screen. Let's call it over here and remove the title from. So yeah, we have home screen with empty container. As material app is there, so we have to convert it into get material app in order to use the facilities that provided by getX. So it should be get material app, and then we have to provide a scaffold with a body and also a very simple app bar. API fetching using getX, and there we have to wrap it with a container in order to give it a full width, and then we have to place it over again. Now I'm going to open Visor in order to show a preview of my device over here. So yeah guys, my physical device is uh, his image is now showing in my laptop using Visor. Now we have to create a button here. So yeah guys, I have created a simple material button. Upon clicking on this button will redirect us to the next screen, and inside the next screen we will be calling the uh, fetch data from API method from our getX controller inside init state of the widget. So now create another screen here. I'm going to name it user detail list underscore screen, and it will contain simple UI in order to just to show you how API using getX work. STF user detail list screen scaffold. Inside body we have to use uh, list view dot builder ctx and I is basically index, and item count I'm going to put it our one just for now. And here I have to create uh, getX controller instance. So I have created a getX class called data controller. Now let's create object of that. Get dot put. In order to use get, we have to import here getX plugin, and then put what I have to put this particular class. This thing is called dependency injection in getX. So yeah guys, object is created, or you guys can say dependency is injected into the code, and inside init state I am going to call data controller dot get user information from API. This is the method that we have to use over here. And another thing is, as you guys can see, I have created a observable type variable. Its value is by default false, so we have to wrap it with the objects widget in order to show circular progress indicator when data is loading from the internet. Objects, yeah, this, and then we have to apply some ternary operator over here. Data controller dot is data loading dot value. If it's true, then we have to just show center child circular progress indicator. If it's false, this means data is either loaded or have error. Then we have to show list view dot builder. Now list style, list style has a leading attribute which basically show leading item on the screen. So what is leading item? Let me create one. Circle avatar with a radius of 20. The background image is network image. So here we have to provide network image that will be displaying in the leading of the list style. Then title is basically text. Here I have to display name of the user, and inside subtitle I have to display the ID of the user. So from where I will get these three things? I will get these three things from the data controller, because we have created uh, a user model list object over here. So we have all required information in this object. First of all, now let's get image string image equal to, by default we have to make it empty string in order to avoid any errors or bugs. Then title empty string and subtitle. Yeah, we have to wrap these things in a try catch block. Image equal to data controller dot user list is the object dot data. So you guys can see this is basically the data that I have to use, and inside data I have to pass index, and then there are picture attribute there, so we have to use that particular object. Yeah guys, we are using getX we are using null safety in this project, so make sure you have to put all the required stuff there. So now we have successfully got image, but in case if we have any error in this line, so what should we do? We just have to make it empty string. We have to do same with title and subtitle. So I'm going to paste it again, title, and we have to change attribute from picture to title, and then let's do same thing for subtitle. Okay, now instead of subtitle, let's print the id. So we have got the required data. Now let's pass image over here, title in a title, and subtitle on its own space. And yeah, from where we will get the item count is basically from the list data controller dot user list dot data dot length. Sorry. So yeah, now we are set up. Now let's run a app. Now let's click on the fetch button. Oh, sorry, I have not navigated it to user detail screen. First, now let's navigate it to that particular screen. Get dot to. So yeah, guys, there is error. Don't know why. Now let's figure it out. What we are doing wrong. Is data loading is true? Then we have to show this. If it is false, then we have to show. Okay. What we are missing is. Now let's give it a restart again. Okay, we are missing something. Let's figure it out. Oh, sorry guys, I have not turned on the data. That is why it is giving an error, because API is unsuccessful. So we are not getting any data from API because of internet. Now let me connect. So it is connected. Now let's try again. Fetch data. And yeah, that time it will work because it was internet issue. It's loading data from API. Yeah guys, it have basically loaded all the data, but instead of its original name, they just print Mr. and Mrs. So we have to figure out from PI documentation, API Explorer, and MS Sarah Anderson. So I think these are first and last name of the user. Now let's check first name. Yeah, there exists first name and last name. So now let's concatenate first name and last name of the user. Sorry. In here it should be last name. So yeah guys, it is basically loaded very well. This is the image, this is the name, and this is basically the ID of the user. So that's it guys. In this video we have basically learned a very cool stuff, how to load data from API using getX. So I have used a very proper way of getting data from API. Hope guys you have enjoyed the video. If you have, please share, like and subscribe. Thank you.